Ready. All right, good afternoon. My name is Neil Harris, and I'm Chair of the Transportation Planning Board, and I hereby call this first meeting of the TPB in 2026 to order. Welcome. I'm happy to have this opportunity to serve as your chair, and equally happy to have Matt and Kenneth as vice chairs this year. Over the past 2 months, we bid goodbye to a couple of our colleagues on this board, and this month I will start by recognizing the new members and alternates to the board. Charles County Commissioner Ralph Patterson II as a member, City of College Park Council Member Simmons, City of Gaithersburg, and my good friend, Assistant City Manager Tom Lonergan Seeger, who's looking at the meeting virtually today, and VDOT's Kimberly McCool as alternates. As usual, the meeting is being live streamed on TPB's YouTube channel. Staff, is there anyone else new to the board that I missed? Okay, good. Happy to have you all join us on the board, and I look forward to a great year ahead working with all of you. We have several of the members participating in person and some virtually as well. Those participating virtually, in the event of any disruption to your audio-video connection, please email or text staff. You'll find the contact information in the email we all received from Conti last week. I'll brief you the process I will follow for today's hybrid meeting. We'll start with a roll call of board members participating in the meeting today and confirm that we have a quorum. After that, we'll accept comments from the public. Then, during agenda items, I'll have the presenters complete their briefing, then turn to the members for questions or comments, and I'll do that by jurisdiction. Those participating virtually, please use the raised hand icon and staff will make a note and help me to call on you. Since it's easier, I'll first call on members here in person and then those online. Lynn and Conti, please help me identify the members of those online in case I'm unable to see them here on screen. Oh, there they are. We have one action item on the agenda today for actions that require a vote. After the presentation of the item, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution and seek a second to the motion. Please state your name and jurisdiction when you second the motion. After that, I'll invite comments and questions from on the motion by jurisdiction. Again, I'll recognize members here in the room before turning to those online. Staff will assist me identifying those online. After questions and comments, I'll call for a vote and do this also by jurisdiction. I will seek only nays and abstentions. I'll take the vote from any members present as yes, unless you say no, nay, or abstain. Let's get started. Lynn, will you please call the roll?
Great, thanks. And before I start roll call, just a few room logistics. So thank you all for traveling across the street from our normal venue. So this is new for us as well. So I'm happy to take feedback on room setup and all sorts of things. For those of you in the room, you see mics around the table. So the thing about the volume here, and if you look up, if you're whispering, they will capture you, but the people in the room can't hear you. That's why we have the microphones. So when it's your turn to speak or you have a question, just make sure you have the microphone and make sure you turn it on. I will not ask for microphones for roll call because we're going to go through this pretty quickly. Before that, I think we're good here. So I'm going to state the jurisdiction. You state your name. And the folks online, which is great, will capture you electronically, and hopefully the rest of you had signed in. So starting with the District of Columbia, DC Council Charles Allen. DC Council Christina Henderson. DC, oh, Heather's online. Okay, great. DC Council Matt Fruman. Thank you. DC Office of Planning.
Present, Ryan Hand.
Ryan Hand, great. Thank you. DC Department of Transportation.
Present.
Sharon Kirschbaum is in the room. Moving on to Maryland, City of Bowie. Charles County.
Ralph Patterson, present.
Thank you. City of College Park.
Present.
Great. I see Holly Simmons online. Thank you. She is one of our new folks. Frederick County.
Mark Mixler, present.
Great. Thank you. City of Frederick. City of Gaithersburg.
Neil Harris, present.
Ms.
You knew that, though.
Is Tom on too? Yes, I knew you were present. Yep. We'll catch him if he's on. City of Greenbelt.
Kristen Weaver is present online.
Thank you. City of Laurel. Montgomery County Executive.
Vince present.
Thanks, Corey. Montgomery County. Prince George's County Executive.
Vic Weisberg, present.
Vic. Prince George's County.
County Council, Eric Olson.
Thank you.
Thank
City
you.
of Rockville.
Monique Ashton, present.
Thank you. City of Tacoma Park. I know Amy was sick today. We'll keep an eye out for her. Maryland House of Delegates. They're in session. Mr. Corman had reached out to us. Maryland Senate. Same. Maryland Department of Transportation.
Jeff Anderson, present.
Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to Virginia, City of Alexandria.
Anik, present.
Anik, Arlington County.
Susan Cunningham online.
Got both of you. Thank you very much. City of Fairfax.
Tom Peterson online.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Fairfax County.
Walter Alcorn.
Thank you, Walter.
Jimmy Bierman online, present. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Gotcha. City of Falls Church.
Sage Snyder online.
Thank you. Loudoun County.
Mike Turner online.
Great. Thanks. Anyone else from Loudoun County? Okay. City of Manassas.
Ashley Hudson, present.
Sonia Vasquez Luna, presente.
Great. Thank you. City of Manassas Park. Prince William County.
Deshandra Jefferson, present.
Thank you. And I saw Megan online as well. Great. Virginia House of Delegates, Virginia Senate. We've heard from both of them. They're not unable to attend today. And Virginia Department of Transportation.
All present.
Thank you. Moving on to WMATA. Is WMATA here? Allison's on. Okay, great. You.
Here, thank you. Sorry.
No worries. Thanks, Allison. Our ex officio members, Federal Highway Administration.
Janine Ash present.
Thank you. Federal Transit Administration. Dan's here. Thanks. National Capital Planning Commission. Mike Wiles here. Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. And National Park Service. So that concludes roll call. We have a quorum.
All right, thanks, Lynn. We'll now move to the second item on our agenda, approval of the December 17, 2025 minutes. We've been provided with a written summary. I trust members have reviewed the minutes. I move that we adopt the minutes of the December 17, 2025 meeting as provided. May I please have a second?
Second.
Please state your name and jurisdiction. All right, we knew that too. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes from the District of Columbia, from Maryland, from Virginia, or other agencies? All right, are there any nays or abstentions on the vote to approve the minutes? From any jurisdiction? All right, the minutes are adopted.
1 second before we go on to the next, can you just go back to item 1 for a minute? Because we didn't talk about the public comments.
All right, well, we have none.
That is, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that there were no public comments, no public speakers signed up, and there were no public comments presented online. So just want to make sure everybody knew that.
All right. Sorry, I skipped the no comments part of the meeting. So now we have the technical committee report. I'd like to welcome the new chair of the technical committee, Dan Maloff from Arlington County. We have a written summary of the January 9th, 2025 meeting. Dan, is there anything you'd like to highlight or expand for us?
Good evening. Pleasure to be here today and to chair the tech committee this year. Our meeting on January 9th, the committee covered 3 items that you'll see today during the board meeting. We received a briefing on DMV moves work to date, as well as next steps. The committee is optimistic about keeping that momentum going and hopefully seeing some legislation this year. Second, we heard a version of the review of outline and preliminary budget for the FY 2027 UPWP that will be an important item at today's meeting. We appreciate that TPB staff keeps us well informed with this item that identifies the planning priorities and work to be done this year. There are so many complex tasks. We are routinely asking the staff to do more of them. It's always helpful to see the program laid out with key items highlighted. Third, we received a briefing on the 2025 State of the Community Survey results. This is a key information that helps form the baseline data that we all rely on whenever any of us do transportation planning. And it's always an item with a lot of interest and discussion at the tech committee. where we really love to sink our teeth into data and make sure that we understand what's going on. Following those items, the committee heard several information items. Most notably, I'll highlight a couple. We received a briefing on the progress of establishing the TPB's Mobility Analytics Program. This program will help improve data gathering around the region, hopefully leading to improved planning. TPB's new Mobility Analytics Subcommittee had its first meeting in December, and we look forward to hearing more from that group over time. We also received a briefing on the regional inventory of roadway safety strategies, including a paper on the effectiveness of automated traffic enforcement. The report inventories roadway safety activities around the region, assessed effectiveness, and identified barriers to doing better. I don't think it will surprise anyone here to report that automated enforcement does indeed consistently reduce crashes all over the region. Finally, the committee was informed of 2 planning assistance programs that are now open for submission. The Transportation Land Use Connections Program and the Regional Roadway Safety Program. These are planning assistance programs that help jurisdictions and agencies plan and implement small-scale capital projects or other planning activities, and applications will be due to TPB for those programs by the end of February. With that, unless there are questions, I will turn it back over.
All right, thanks. Are there any questions for Dan from the District of Columbia? From Maryland? From Virginia? And any other agencies? All right, thanks, Dan. Now it's time for the Community Advisory Committee report. We have a written summary of the January 16th, 2026 meeting, as well as the annual report. I welcome Chair Daniel Papiernik to brief us on not just this month's meeting, but also all the work that was done last year. They had a light year, right? Okay, not exactly. Thanks, Daniel.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Harris. It is my pleasure to deliver the CAC's monthly report as well as the CAC's annual report. The CAC met virtually and in person on January 15th, and we received an update on the status of the DMV Moves initiative discussed. The CAC met virtually and in person on January 15th. We received an update on the status of the DMV Moves initiative and discussed how CAC members can be advocates for promoting involvement of our elected and appointed officials. As part of our work plan, we got a briefing on the Unified Planning Work Program and held a wide-ranging discussion on the future of transportation, reflecting on trends that may influence our transportation plans and systems over the next several years. We also celebrated our accomplishments and welcomed our new chair, Tim Davis. I will continue to serve as vice chair from Virginia, and Ra Amin has agreed to continue as vice chair from the District of Columbia. Our annual report focuses on 2 major tasks in which the CAC was engaged in 2025, the DMV Moves and Visualize 2050. As you may recall, the CAC provided comments on the DMV Moves efforts. These are attached in our annual report, and we're ready to assist the TPB in implementing the next steps to cement progress in coordinating and funding the effort. We're also pleased to be engaged with the update of the Visualize 2050 plan, promoting opportunities for the public to be involved and hosting the TIP Forum. Looking ahead, the CAC will continue to be involved with regional transportation issues, bringing diverse voices and serving as a sounding board and conduit to the communities that the TPB serves. I invite TPB members to read the CAC reports for more details about our discussions. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, are there any questions from any of our jurisdictions? All right, I understand that this was your last report as chair of the CAC. Thank you for both this report and for serving as chair of the committee this past year. I'm also glad that you will continue to serve on the committee. Thank you for soldiering on, and in appreciation of your service to the region and to this board, I have a plaque to give to you. Please join me here and let's read what the plaque says. This is a certificate of appreciation. The National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board at the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments hereby presents this recognition of gratitude for distinguished service to the TPB and the region, people of the region as TPB Community Advisory Chair 2025.
There you go.
we actually move this way, all of you guys?
What's that?
Just so I can get a picture with the.
All right.
With the tablecloth, because it says think regionally.
Okay.
Tablecloth. Sorry, Matt.
Matt, you can join us.
You too.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers. Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, and as members will recall, members of our community's advisory committee serve 2-year terms, and 2026 is the second year. I'm happy to report that all the members from last year will continue to serve this year. It's good for continuity. As chair of the TPB, it is my privilege to nominate a member of the CAC to serve as chair this year. I'm pleased to appoint Tim Davis from the city of Frederick as the chair. Tim is a retired transportation professional, and he ably represented the city on the TPB's technical committee and even chaired it. Not just that he's a very knowledgeable individual, he's also a good guy, one who prioritizes collaboration and deals with everyone with a great sense of respect. I believe those of you who do not know or have not worked with Tim will like him and will be ably served. Item number 5, the steering committee actions and reports of the director. Next, a report from our director, Kanti Srikanth. We have a written report. Kanti, please review for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. You have a copy of my memo about the report. I will briefly review them. The TPB steering committee met on January 9, but there were no TIP amendments that the committee approved. The committee did set the agenda for today's meeting. There are a few announcements that I would wish to bring to your attention. On page 5 of your packet of my memo is a copy of the TPB's annual report for 2025. We at the TPB used to produce a very thick, detailed technical report, and a few years ago, the TPB discontinued that in favor of providing monthly newsletters. Our communication staff this year wanted to try an additional thing of summarizing all the 12 months of activities into an annual report. So this is our communications team's first attempt. You have it with you. Please review and provide any suggestions. Thank you, our outgoing chair, Mr. Alcorn, for supporting and for your message in the annual report. As the chair alluded to, it was a very busy year. We tried to keep it brief and a quick read, so we have just hit some of the highlights. Thank you. On page 13, you will find the updated schedule of meetings for the TPB. The only update since December is we have now identified the 3 meetings that will be all virtual. TPB bylaws require that at least 3 of its 11 meetings be all virtual, and we worked with the chair and the vice chairs to identify those. So those are now identified. Other than that, there are no changes. Also, as Tech Chair Dan Maloff noted, the TPB has started accepting applications from your agencies for grants. There are 2 particular grants, the Transportation Land Use Connection and the Regional Roadway Safety Grants. The applications will be accepted through the end of February. Your agencies can apply and get technical assistance, consultant assistance for studies, about up to $80,000 for studies and up to $100,000 for preliminary engineering. So if your agency wishes to get some staff feedback, they can optionally provide an abstract of the application, and staff will review and get back to them on how they can enhance their applications if any such enhancements are needed. The deadline for that abstract is close of business today, so not a whole lot of time. Lastly, at the December meeting, Mayor Ashton from the city of Rockville asked staff to look into a request for information publication by the Federal Highway that was published December 11th. Staff did promise to look into that, and we now have, and you have a copy of that on page 17 of my memo. The gist of the request for information from Federal Highway is they are seeking ideas and suggestions and inputs from the public, from the private sector, and from many interested agencies on how can the region work to improve the travel along the I-495 American Legion Bridge corridor. And they say that the information gathered will be shared with the Maryland Department of Transportation that obviously has jurisdiction over the facilities in that corridor. And the request for information particularly seems to be focused on how can we deliver this project. It is more on design, delivery, and other ideas of addressing congestion and mobility. The due date for inputs from the public is on February 9th. From a TPB staff perspective, something that Mayor Ashton asked us to look at, the focus on design and delivery is something that is outside of the bandwidth and the capabilities of the MPO staff. So from a staff perspective, there's no recommendation for us to pull something together to submit by February 9th. But we do acknowledge, and we have been working with the Maryland Department of Transportation on their ports, and Jeff Anderson from MDOT is here. Recognize you if you want to add anything to it, or so that concludes my report on the RFI, and I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So this is the part of the meeting where the chairman gets to make remarks. And since it's my first meeting, I've got a little bit longer remarks than usual. So I hope you'll indulge me. It'll be much less than the 45 minutes they've allocated. Just kidding. It will be a lot less than that. So first, I'd like to begin by celebrating some of the major accomplishments of this organization and this body. We just concluded a 2.5-year-long effort to completely rewrite the region's long-range plan for the next 25 years. This was an intensive effort by the board, by 3 departments of transportation, and by the TPB staff. There was much candid and very helpful debate on the policy priorities in making our transportation investment decisions. Tom Peterson from the city of Fairfax summed up the gains on climate and equity issues in the face of the current federal approach. Our longtime colleague Dave Snyder answered the big question, which is, why should we adopt this plan? And what we've seen is we aspire to more than we're able to deliver so far because we aspire to a lot. I hope we recognize and take pride in what we've accomplished with this new plan. There's another area I'd like the organization and the board to take a bow, and that's the fact that we've now delivered better air quality over the last 3 years than the federal standards require. The TPB will be submitting that data to the EPA formally, but the evidence shows that what we've accomplished working with the local departments of transportation and others in order to bring ozone levels better than the healthy standard. It's an area where we can declare a major victory for our environment. I think we should be proud. 10 years ago, a number of us looked at the then current 25-year regional transportation plan and realized that it projected a future with more than 70% worse roadway congestion than we have today. We were not willing to stand idly by, and we spent the next year as a task force discussing possible ways to address congestion through policies and programs, and we developed an aspirational plan. One of the largest potentials we suggested was with a dramatic increase in telework. And in fact, during the pandemic, telework resulted in enormous improvements in congestion reduction. And as the pandemic faded, job centers pleaded for workers to please return to the office and refill office buildings and rebuild the local economy for those businesses providing meals and other services to local employees. So now what we have is more telework than before, as you'll hear this afternoon in the presentation on the triennial commuter survey, but it turns out to be less practical to have a majority of the workforce telecommuting than we'd hoped, and it does not appear to be the ultimate solution that we had expected and hoped for. So I'd like to see this body focus our attention over the next year and beyond on ways to dramatically improve regional mobility so people can get to work, to shopping, school, childcare, wherever they need in a timely and reliable manner in what is currently one of the most congested regions in the country. So how do we get there from here? I say that we do this by working with our staff here at TPB and back home in our own jurisdictions to study the challenges that remain, which the Visualized 2050 plan documents, to understand what are the factors that cause these challenges, to identify proven strategies, This means looking at the data on the factors posing challenges and strategies that have been successful to inform our decisions and make decision-making and expectations for change. I've met with TPB staff and discussed how this year we should focus on deep dives into the challenges that were identified and do so with an approach to mobility in all its aspects: roadway congestion, safety, transit service, and affordability. I represent one of the largest municipalities, that's Gaithersburg, that is just outside the reach of Metro. And while I appreciate the benefits of transit-oriented development, wouldn't it be great to also find a way to bring development-oriented transit so those of us in the bustling and fastest growing parts of the region have access to high-capacity transit as well? So today, we'll learn the results of our State of the Commute survey. We'll hear more in the next month when we're briefed on our work program for the next fiscal year. Our work to improve the performance outcomes of our long-range transportation plan begins right after we adopted the long-range plan. You didn't think we were going to get a rest after a busy year, did you? So thanks for listening to my thoughts on the matter. I look forward to working with all of you as we bring our aspirations to reality to balance improved mobility with environmental stewardship and bring those benefits to everyone in our entire region. Thank you. We'll now go back to our regularly scheduled meeting. So we have the one action item on our agenda is the DMV moves TPB implementation role. Last month, we heard from staff about a regional action plan to significantly enhance transit service in the region, developed by DMV Moves Task Force and endorsed by the COG Board and many of the local jurisdiction governing bodies. The plan has identified specific outcomes, and what is now needed is working to achieve those outcomes. One of the outcomes is improved coordination among all the bus service operators for regional integration of bus service delivery. The TPB has been asked to help convene the regional bus operators to help with the implementation actions. Last month, we received a draft resolution for us to consider in response to this request being made. Today, we'll be asked to act on this. Tom Harrington on our staff, who is the lead for this, will brief us now. I'll call for a vote on the resolution after his briefing and our discussion. Tom, take it away.
Good afternoon, Chair Harris and members of the board. I am Tom Harrington, Multimodal Planning Program Director. So last month, we presented an update on DMV moves to the TPB. Today, you're being asked to approve or adopt a resolution endorsing the DMV moves recommendations, and more specifically, accepting TPB's role as lead coordinator. We do not have new content to provide today, but I'll briefly review what's being asked of the TPB. And again, this was November 17th when the COG Board and Metro Board adopted a resolution endorsing the DMV moves plan. So as we discussed last month, COG Metro and our partners have outlined specific actions to ensure the DMV moves recommendations are implemented and to hold, really to hold ourselves accountable to delivering our shared vision for world-class transit. Note that items called out are some of the short-term actions where TPB will have a leading role. But as lead coordinator, we actually expect to be involved working closely with Metro and with our partners. We'll be involved with facilitation and progress reporting on all parts of the action plan. Let's see, next slide. So today's resolution is asking the TPB to endorse the DMV moves plan, accepting the request urged upon it to act as lead coordinator for implementation of the plan. And finally, directing staff to develop a work plan for carrying out DMV moves implementation. We expect to be back later this spring with more details on the work plan, but really this will be an ongoing continuous item where there'll be annual reports, and as progress is made, we expect to report back to TPB. So COG and Metro Board also called on the region to help secure the dedicated funding called for in the DMV moves recommendations. This is now being sort of handled as, while we're focused on implementation of some of the recommendations, lots of work is being done at the state legislatures to move forward on securing funding, and In parallel with that, right now, regional endorsements are happening, and we've been going out talking to cities and counties around the region about DMV moves. And we appreciate all the support that we've been receiving. We have, I guess, one addition since the mail out, which is Prince George's County is scheduled now for January 27th. But as you see, we are getting out to folks, talking about the DMV moves recommendations and more sort of what this means for the region and how the region can help. So at this time, Chair Harris, TPB staff recommend approval by the TPB of DMV moves resolution R9 2026.
All right, thank you, Tom. Before we discuss and vote, I'll move that we adopt resolution R9-2026. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Now that the motion has been made and properly seconded for discussion, are there any questions or comments from those in the room? Walter Alcorn.
Thank you. There it is. My fingernails aren't long enough. Thank you, Chair Harris. Just very briefly, very excited about this coming forward, and I think TPB can play a very, very important role. I just wanted to add on something that is going on currently in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have legislation that's been introduced for the Virginia portion of what's called for in DMV moves in terms of transit funding. But for my Virginia colleagues, I think we're aware of this. The attempts in Virginia to get transit funding include not only what Metro is seeking, but also our local bus systems and the Virginia Railway Express. So the numbers are going to be a little different when you look at some of those Virginia bills, but that's okay. It's all focusing on the transit needs that we have, and I'm hopeful that Virginia will be able to move forward with this during the next few months, and appreciate everybody, including the TPB members who are part of the Virginia General Assembly and all the work that everyone's doing in that effort. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Alcorn. Are there any other comments in the room?
And two things, one raised by that, am I to understand that what Virginia is doing is additive to what had already been agreed around WMATA?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Okay, that's wonderful and a good example to all of us to support transit as strongly as we can. And then on the TPB role, is there a time horizon to this? How long do we expect? I'm 110% supportive of it, but curious what we're thinking about in terms of we would be the lead in implementation over a 2-year period, a 5-year period, a 1-year period. What's the thinking on that?
Sure. Yeah, I think we called out in the resolution that this is a multi-year effort, certainly. And the items that we listed on the slide are primarily things that we want to do in this calendar year, but we recognize some of these things are going to take multiple years to get started on. So some of the initial laying of the groundwork of the planning is happening now. But as you saw in the DMV moves plan, the bus priority recommendations, actually implementing those are called out to be a 6 to 8 year time horizon for that. So the monitoring part of it would be a more regular ongoing item, but they're definitely, it's kind of front loaded with more of the defining of the plans and kind of putting those into action in the first year or two of the program. But
So if I could add to that, a board should certainly expect during 2026, there's a really long list of items that the DMV Moves Task Force has identified as outcomes they would like to see. For example, what is going to be the approach for riding transit for the lower income transit ridership? Right now, we have 13 different transit systems in the region. They all provide for that, but their thresholds, their requirements, their eligibility criteria is different. That makes it hard and it doesn't make it a seamless experience for the transit riders in the region. So that's explicitly called out, and TPB is being asked, would you please convene the transit operators, understand this issue? What are the challenges? What are the hurdles? And is there a common income threshold or whatever criteria we want to use? Can we all get on the same page to do that? So there are a series of such specific outcomes. Some of those we hope to be able to complete and bring back a positive report to the board during this year. Others will probably take a little longer. One of the things that the TPB has been asked is the DMV Moves Task Force identified 7 corridors as candidate corridors to implement bus rapid transit system. I think there are 2 in the District of Columbia, 2 in Virginia, and I think 3 in Maryland. So the implementation, the design and the implementation, the funding is all going to take a while. And the time frame for implementing all 7, the desired time frame is 6 to 8 years. But the TPB was asked, could you do a plan or a study that can show how might the regional experience with transit mobility and transit ridership be different when all 7 have been implemented? So what is the network effect that happens? Because the idea is when people are crossing jurisdictional boundaries, the riding transit should be very seamless. That is a study that we will now have to do now that the corridors have been identified. So in the next couple months, we anticipate, if you support TPB taking this responsibility, we anticipate initiating a study, issuing an RFP, bringing a consultant on board, and bring those results to the board as well. So there'll be a series of reports coming out, certainly in the next year.
All right, great. Are there any more questions or comments from the room? I see we have at least one hand up online.
Denise Mitchell's first.
Denise Mitchell?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. I just want to say, I want to give a kudos to the staff who came out to the City of College Park last week to talk about DMV moves. They did an excellent presentation, received a lot of positive comments from our residents regarding it. I really look forward to working collaboratively, getting this through the finish line. So I just want to give you kudos for and how you expand that in a regional approach. And it was an excellent presentation again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Denise.
Allison from WMATA.
Allison from WMATA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
You are very, very quiet.
Okay, I'm going to get up close with my speaker. Can you hear me now? Okay, so I just wanted to first thank TPB staff so much for partnering with us on DMV Moves. When we met 2 years ago and started talking about this was just a glimmer in the eye of what we could do. And I think we really did a great job pulling it together. And for all of you who participated either on the task force, had staff who were part of the advisory groups and the working groups, I really, really appreciate it. We know it wasn't necessarily in anyone's work plan, but then it became in people's work plan. So really appreciate that. And I think, the ask for TPB as we think about this and to follow on what Conte was talking about is just to continue to push thinking about from a customer perspective, how do we make this easier to ride transit, right? That is what gets us to the economic goals that we have, the housing goals that we have, the environmental goals we have, the mobility goals we have, clearly. It's how we think about things from a customer perspective and just kind of continuing to push that view. Because I think it's very easy for those of us who work for operators to go back into our silos to, do it the way we've always done it, or this is the easier path. And I think there's a lot of benefit when we come together and we push forward to make things better for the region. So again, thank you for all of you who have participated. Looking forward to this vote. And thank you very much to my colleagues at TPB who came together with us on this.
David
Right.
Edmonston from City of Frederick, and then Mr. Snyder.
All right, David Edmondson.
Yes, hello. I just wanted to say thank you to the staff. As a part of one of the outer jurisdictions, we have no wheel service that leaves our county during the afternoon or weekends. And so this is something that we're extremely excited about generally. And we are really glad to see that the region is taking a proactive role, and that this body will be doing a lot of the work to make sure that we function as a singular system throughout our region. So.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Snyder, are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a note of strong support for the overall approach, but I do urge that TPB coordinate very closely with the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission and the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority that have the legal responsibilities to do much of the coordination that's been talked about here today for Northern Virginia. And I note that Conti is well aware of that and is nodding his agreement about that close coordination will be essential for success. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Yes, I just want to affirm both Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, the Washington Suburban Transit Commission in Maryland. They're all members of the TPB's technical committee. TPB has a regional public transportation subcommittee. So this work that the TPB does will be through its committee process, and we will make sure that all of the stakeholders will be part of this discussion. Thanks.
All right, do we have any more hands? I don't see any offhand. All right, and I would like to note that I didn't see the city of Gaithersburg on that briefing list. I would invite you to come out and talk to my colleagues, although I know our staff participated in the project over the last year, but I think my colleagues on the council would like to hear from this as well.
We plan to go to all 24 jurisdictions in the region. So this slide reflects the dates that we have heard back because we are trying to get on the council or the board's agenda. So this is a live listing of jurisdictions, but we do plan to go to all 24 jurisdictions.
All right, if you have trouble getting our agenda, let me know. I have some pull there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now it's time for the vote. Are there any nays or abstentions in the room? I'd be shocked. Are there any nays or abstentions online from any jurisdiction? All right, the motion carries. Great example of what I mentioned during my remarks, trying to identify what strategies will help us achieve better performance outcomes in our transportation system and work toward it. So we have two information items coming up. First is a review and outline of the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2027 UPWP. Lynn Erickson on our staff will give us a briefing on the annual statement of work and budget for the upcoming fiscal year, starting July 1. I see this as more of a TPB 101 refresher for some of us who will receive the detailed work program and budget next month before acting on it in March. Lynn, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Chair Harris. So when people ask you, what does the TPB do? What do you tell them? And for those of you in the room, you can cheat because if you look in front of Mr. Harris, we have our little sign. Anyway, if you tell them that the TPB does three main things, then you're welcome to come up here and give this presentation. So anyway, the TPB, first off, has a ton of federal requirements to meet. TPB serves as a forum for regional coordination, and TPB provides data to decision makers. The TPB's influence is indirect. As you may have noticed, we are not all things transportation. We have a very niche role. So as we kick off the new year, I like to take the opportunity to elaborate on all of the responsibilities that the TPB has and the services we provide, as we are the federally designated Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, for the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia urban area, as well as the urban areas of Frederick and Waldorf, Maryland. The Unified Planning Work Program is the TPB's annual staff budget and work scope. So this month, we'll talk about the basic MPO requirements. I'm going to show you how you can navigate our process and get the most out of your time with us. The main takeaway from today's presentation is that I hope you will be reminded of the many federal requirements that we are responsible for together as a region in a continuing, cooperative, and comprehensive manner, and that every effort is made to try to synchronize board interests with our required products. The board will be asked to approve our UPWP in March. All right, so what does the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process focus on? So I suspect you are all familiar with your local planning, programming, and project selection processes, but there are also many other entities that conduct planning and programming activities at the sub-regional level. For example, many of our Virginia friends here at the table meet 2 other times every month to talk about transportation topics. Also of note is that the TPB does not directly participate in project development activities. There is a place for that, it's just not at the TPB. The TPB it does not examine individual projects. However, we look at all of them together, all at the same time. And each project is an important piece of our regional puzzle. So if any of our local, sub-regional, or state agencies want to spend funding, federal funding, or if their projects impact air quality, it doesn't matter how each of these projects came to be, they have to be part of the TPB's process. So it's the separate regional federal metropolitan transportation planning process that we focus on here at TPB. And we do ask you to, just like our sign says, think regionally and act locally back at home. And staff is always here to help you. The mission, if you will, of our MPO has largely been defined for us by our federal partners. It's to implement federal metropolitan transportation planning process 23 CFR Part 450 Subpart B, Subpart 450, 49 CFR Part 613, 49 CFR Part 93. It's a lot of technical stuff. We serve as a representative group of local stakeholders. We carry out the 3C process. It's a continuing process. It basically never stops. It's a cooperative process. It's consensus-based, and it's comprehensive. It's multimodal and multidisciplinary. We are required to develop a long-range plan and a short-range transportation improvement program, which we did last month. We are required to demonstrate how projects in both are paid for, otherwise known as fiscal constraint. We are required to conduct an air quality conformity analysis of the projects in both the plan and the TIP. We are also required to engage in performance-based planning and programming. So these requirements also specify how to develop these products and what exactly needs to be addressed in them. We also work in conjunction with state air and transportation agencies to meet Federal Clean Air Act standards in accordance with 40 CFR Part 93. So, okay, great. We have all of these rules to follow, but what does that actually mean? So the process is supposed to shape what goes into these plans and programs. So let me say that again. The process is supposed to shape what goes into these plans and programs both now and into future plans and programs. So this means taking your projects that were developed at your local, sub-regional, or state level, using our regionally established policies, and providing that information to you as the implementing agencies to use as those projects move forward, and as you are making decisions about what projects to fund next. As you know, transportation projects take years to develop, so actually most of the data we provide to you now will shape our future plans and programs. So who are we? Wait, hold on, we have 43 members of the 410, so there are 410 MPOs like us in the United States. We are the 9th largest MPO in the nation in population, the 16th largest in planning area. As part of the 3C process, again, we do 3 main things here. We prepare plans and programs that the federal government must approve in order for federal aid transportation funding to flow. We provide technical resources for consensus building and decision making, and we provide a forum for regional coordination. So as you know, we have a lot of federal checkboxes that must be checked. However, there are always opportunities to synchronize board interests along with those federal regulations. So I'm reminding you of all of these responsibilities because these are some of the things we need to focus on as we prepare our staff workload for next year. So how do we plan and document the workload for next year? We do this through a document called the Unified Planning Work Program. This is where we define how we carry out the MPO activities and what exactly they are. It's actually one of only a few even though we have all these federal regulations. The feds really only approve like 2 things, and this is one of them. It provides federal authority to draw down the guaranteed MPO funding so staff can conduct the process and keep the transit funded. I do want to point out that we are federally certified and we are in fact meeting or exceeding their expectations for how the TPB is conducting our metropolitan transportation planning process. So every year we start the budget process the same way, assuming we'll get the same amount of money, and we can reasonably make that assumption because there is only one way to spend federal metropolitan transportation funding, and it automatically comes to MPOs like us. So MPO expenditures, what are you getting for your money? And I deliberately say your money because everyone at the table provides a 10% match based on your jurisdiction's population. The state DOTs pay 10% on behalf of all the jurisdictions in the state, and the federal government is paying the other 80%. So we are officially staffed to you, our members. Our talented staff of about 50 people focus completely on the sometimes extremely technical work, and we are always ready to help you with all kinds of complicated transportation planning topics. Now for the fun stuff. What do we do every year? What can you expect every time you come to see us? This is our committee and subcommittee structure. We utilize our 12 subcommittees and advisory committees to help us both disseminate and get feedback on data, information, and products to make sure that we are on the right track with your needs and with the federal requirements. We provide a forum for regional coordination, which means bringing staff from 43 member agencies and jurisdictions together for meetings. It's also working within our own agency to more fully utilize our strengths across our teams and departments. So the single best way to navigate our process is to pay attention to what is going on at the committees and to read our TPB News blog post as well. So we're hoping you meet regularly with your technical committee rep because we know that 2 hours a month that for you guys to come here, which we appreciate, but it's probably not enough time to fully understand and appreciate all the things we offer at TPB. One other tidbit, it's staff intent that every action item appears on the TPB agenda twice. First as a heads up, and then the next month for approval. We know we are regional representative government, which means that each member at the table is representing their entire jurisdiction or agency. The TPB funds and implements regional programs by providing consultant services to members in several program areas. We seek to enhance transportation and land use coordination through our Transportation Land Use Connections program, where we support planning for vibrant and accessible communities. This technical assistance program has provided our jurisdictions with consultant support for 191 projects for nearly $9.2 million over the years. A good example of synchronizing board interests is how we've developed our Regional Roadway Safety Program. Our RRSP has funded 32 projects for more than $2.1 million. New solicitations for both the TLC and RRSP are currently underway, due at the end of February. In addition, our Transit Within Reach program has provided consultant support for 9 projects totaling almost $1 million. The TPB implements programs on behalf of our members. We promote transportation alternatives through our Commuter Connections program, which you'll hear next item with some cool stuff that they're working on. Through our bicycle and pedestrian programs, through our responsibilities for the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program grants as well. Through the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program, the TPB has selected 180 projects for DC, Maryland, and Virginia for a total of nearly $95 million. The other federal grant opportunity is TPB's Enhanced Mobility Grant Program, which aims to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities throughout the region by removing barriers to transportation services and expanding transportation mobility options available. The TPB has distributed $45.7 million in federal funds to 135 enhanced mobility projects, several of which you just approved last month. Thank you very much. Altogether, that's more than $140 million worth of projects that the TPB selected for the region. As a forum for regional coordination, we are strategically set up to conduct studies and analyses that inform regional transportation decision-making and to facilitate and implement various regional initiatives. So these analyses can include examining the performance and utilization of our current transportation service to assess the effectiveness of the region's investment in infrastructure and service. We coordinate with the Metropolitan Washington Air Quality Committee, MWAC. This year, it will be to develop a maintenance plan for ground level ozone. We will also continue to coordinate with the planning activities of the Climate, Energy, and Environment Policy Committee, CEPC. Robust safety activities continue, and we provide the opportunity to have other policy discussions. Our emergency preparedness and management operation activities feature planning activities in support of our Metropolitan Area Transportation Operations Coordination, or MATOC program. Here are some examples of technical resources we provide. We provide travel monitoring and travel trends analysis, travel demand forecasting, mobile emissions planning, and we support multimodal initiatives. We are developing the Generation 3 travel model, which will be the TPB's next generation travel demand forecasting model, which is an activity-based model that has lots of expanded analysis potential. Additionally, each year we get 50 to 60 requests for the regional travel demand forecasting model, its inputs and/or its outputs. We are moving towards data-driven performance outcomes. We provide travel, traffic, and demographic analysis and data sets and visualizations. In 2025, we began significant enhancements to our travel monitoring program and began building our mobility analytics program, a tool that features a comprehensive series of transportation-related indicators that help tell the story of the nature of travel in the region. As part of that, we also established our new Mobility Analytics Subcommittee, which will advise TPB staff on the development of this program. We provide a variety of communication tools, including our TPB News publication and our active social media presence, including the infographics and videos that we've developed that you can use to help describe what you do at the TPB. This includes our new annual report, which you all have copies of at your table. We can send anybody online copies if you want it. We also have it, and Amanda did an amazing little video, 1 minute, that shows everything that happened this year. It's pretty cool. So normally I'd wait until next month to share this information, but we thought it would be a good idea to use this teaser to get a look at the detailed memo that we have for you online. All of these are flagged as new activities for next year, so I'm going to run through these quickly. So this year is a big year for performance-based planning and programming. So you heard me say probably too much about our requirements. So this is a big deal. And we have 6 sets of targets to approve. You just approved the DMV Moves implementation activities for us to work on. It's also time to begin work on new updates to the regional bicycle and pedestrian and freight plans. These mode-specific plans are typically updated in the intervals between our 4-year long-range plans in order to ultimately inform the subsequent long-range plan. These modal plans will provide overviews of the extent of the system, demand and use, the most significant issues, and recommendations on how to improve the performance of the modal system, whether bike-ped connections or freight delivery. We are also updating the TPB's participation plan, which governs our interaction with the public, and the coordinated human service transportation plan, which guides our enhanced mobility work. We will continue our resiliency work, including running some scenarios with the regional travel model. Every 3 years, we collect and analyze information about the motor vehicle fleet, known as VIN data, which is used as an input to the region's mobile emissions model. We also will continue data collection for TPB's single largest survey effort, the Regional Travel Survey, which began this year and will collect important data about regional households and their travel behavior in the post-pandemic era. Finally, we will continue developing our enhanced mobility analytics data products. So our next steps are to develop the planned revenues and expenditures in detail, and we'll come back to you next month with a draft document for review. So in the document itself, there's a lot of federal descriptive background, but the memo that's posted online really just goes to the meat of the UPWP. It describes the specific staff work activities for your review and comment. And all of the new activities are specifically highlighted. So if those draw your eyes, that's all I need you to read. Anyway, after board approval in March, we submit the document to our federal partners and work begins first. So that concludes my brief snapshot, and happy to take questions.
All right, thanks, Lynn. Conti, did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. I have a quick question on the Community Leadership Institute,
Yeah.
which was on one of the slides. Is
Yeah.
there going to be a session this year?
Yes, we're planning one for the summer. Yes.
All right. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, I actually participated in the class my first year on the TPB, and I've sent a number of Gaithersburg people there since then. It's a very informative 3 sessions.
It's like a
is it?
3-day, 3-evening, sort of like module of all things transportation planning. And so it's very interactive. So it's not like you're sitting listening to someone like me speak to you. It's very hands-on.
Yeah, it's very informative and helpful. I know we have a robust transportation committee in the city of Gaithersburg, and I like to send people there so that they're speaking from an educated background. So I think it's a great program. Thank you.
Great.
Any questions for Lynn in the room? Matt?
Thank you very much. Oh, maybe put the slide that was just up. One of the things that's in the new things is the regional freight plan. And I am curious whether that is inclusive of commuter rail or commuter rail is different than that, and how commuter rail fits into this landscape, because it strikes me as a potentially interesting and important area.
Yeah, the regional freight plan does not include either Virginia Railway Express or MARC, which are the commuter rail systems. It focuses, however, on the roadway system transporting or supporting freight movement to and through the region. It also includes freight moving to and through this region on our railway systems as well. For the commuter rail itself, the Regional Public Transportation Subcommittee will be the focus of where that work will be going on. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Are there any questions or comments online? All right, that's it then. Thank you, Lynn.
Mr. Harris, Chair Harris, I had my hand up. Just a quick question. Is that okay if I speak? Monique Ashton, City of Rockville.
Sure, Mayor Ashton, go ahead.
Thank you. Just want to say, echo the thanks on all of the work by staff and by everyone on this planning board. I saw in the new things that you're highlighting going forward, you talk about pedestrian and bike, and you also talk about Mr. Conti looking at the regional experience. I was just curious, and we're doing this in the city of Rockville in terms of how do we also look at from the lens of disabilities, particularly mobility disabilities, when you're looking at how can you ensure a similar experience as you travel across the entire region. So I was wondering if each of those plans would have a dedicated section to look at the accessibility aspect as well.
Yeah, just to make sure I heard the question right, were you particularly talking about mobility of people with disabilities and in terms of
Yes.
their access to the transportation services?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. No, thank you. Thank you for that question. One of the things that we have planned for this year, this upcoming year, is updating. The region has a plan. It's called the Human Service Transportation Coordination Plan. That is a plan totally focused on the mobility needs and challenges of people with disabilities and older adults. And that is a plan that highlights what are the challenges being faced by this community and what are the proven strategies to address those. So we are going to update that plan. And the nice thing about that is there is federal funding dedicated to address and implement some of those strategies outside of all the other federal funding that can be used. And that is 5310 FTA provides that funding. It's called the Enhanced Mobility Program. And the TPB gets that money. This is one of the instances where the TPB directly is the recipient of the federal funds. It doesn't go to the DOTs, it directly comes to the TPB. And we get about $5 million per year. And every 2 years, the TPB solicits applications and it asks the applicants, here is a plan, here are the proven strategies, which of these strategies would you be implementing and how much money would you need? And that's what we do. And I think in the last month or so, the TPB approved our biennial allocation, about $10.4 million towards that. So that is just focused on this. But in anything else that we do, whether it is commuter connections or whether it is regular public transportation planning, there are opportunities for us to pay particular attention to the needs of that particular group. I hope that gives you some, and Lynn wants to add something.
Yeah, one more thing. I had mentioned paying attention to what happens in all of our committees and the subcommittees. We have an Access for All advisory committee. That's a separate, it's actually an advisory committee level. So it doesn't contain just TPB member agencies. It's expanded in the last year. We reformatted it. In fact, we have 2 new chairs, which we'll be announcing. The next meeting is February 2nd. Why I bring that committee up, they report directly to you all. But they also receive all the presentations that the TPB does. So when we are developing all of our plans that I listed on the screen, they will get presentations on that as well. So their perspective will be, it may not get a separate chapter as Ms. Ashton mentioned, but they're definitely involved in the development of all of our products.
Great, thank you. Do we have any more comments or questions from the people online? I don't see any. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you, Lynn. Now we're up to the last informational item today, the big one, the 2025 State of the Commute Survey results. Dan Sheehan and Lindsay Hake on our staff will present results from the 2025 State of the Commute Survey. This is something we conduct every 3 years and have been doing for over 25 years. This year's briefing will be the first opportunity for us to see how commuting in this region has changed from pre-COVID to during COVID and now post-COVID. Also, staff's briefing will point out what these findings mean with respect to our policy priorities. And as I noted during my remarks, we'll hear how we can use these database findings to inform the decisions that we make to achieve better travel outcomes. This morning, the vice chairs and I were joined by representatives of the state DOTs who actually fund this entire program. And we presented this data to the media. Try not to break the microphone. Thank you for everyone who joined us in the meeting this morning. Informing the public, building that awareness among the public and employers of the region is one of the things we need to do to implement what we're seeing in the survey. Dan? Take it away.
There we go. Okay. Am I coming in okay? Can you hear me? Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank
you're
you,
good.
Chair Harris. I appreciate it. And I want to thank the 3 DOT speakers, Ms. Kirschbaum, Mr. Anderson, and Ms. McCool, who were able to join us at the press event today to speak on behalf of the state's investments in improving the transportation infrastructure and transit accessibility and all that for commuters in this region. We had some great questions from the press already that we've begun looking into and are getting back to their questions. So, okay, trying not to knock it over, that's the challenge. And we are already looking into those questions, and we look forward to any questions the board has as well on the results from this survey so that we can continue reacting to the data that we've gotten from this very insightful survey and tailoring and adjusting our programs accordingly, as well as providing advice and guidance to the policy implications from these results. So with that, I think I'm ready to get started. That one, I think it's the,
Well, try.
yeah. Just, I'll keep one hand on. I think we'll be good. All right. So today we'll be presenting findings from the 2025 State of the Commute. This is our region's largest and longest running survey for commute behavior. It provides the most comprehensive picture of what we have and how workers travel across the metropolitan region. So what is the State of the Commute? It's a survey that's conducted every 3 years and represents the full TPB region. It gives us detailed look at commute modes, telework, transit use, motivators, barriers, and commuter attitudes. In 2025, we received over 7,500 completed surveys, giving us statistically a robust data set to compare against 2019 and 2022. For the TPB, this survey helps answer key questions such as how stable are commuting patterns now, what's changed permanently, and what should jurisdictions and regional agencies prioritize as we plan for the next several years. To reach workers across all communities, we used an address-based sampling approach and invited participants to participate via postcard, with options to respond online or by phone. The survey was in the field from March through June 2025, just as federal workers were returning to in-person work resulting from the president's mandates. This survey marks our 9th State of the Commute cycle since 2001, giving us nearly 25 years of trend data. To better interpret the results, it's important to understand the travel environment across the last 3 survey cycles. In 2019, we had a strong economy, stable commuting patterns, and comparatively low telework. In 2022, we were still in recovery. Telework was widespread, return to office plans were uncertain due to COVID Omicron variant, and transit service was limited. And non-commute travel in the outer suburban areas was starting to recover. But by 2025, we seem to be approaching a much more settled new normal, as we're calling it. Return to office policies, especially among federal workers, have increased in-person commuting. Travel volumes are now concentrated Tuesday through Thursday, and transit reliability has improved significantly as agencies restored service. Before we get into the findings, I'd like to clarify why the state of the commute matters for the TPB. Although commute trips make up less than 1/4 of all weekday travel in the region, they have an outsized impact on peak period congestion, transit crowding, and day-to-day operational needs. The state of the commute gives us the region's most detailed look at these commute patterns, how workers are traveling, how often they travel, and what motivates their choices. These insights directly inform our work on transit reliability, congestion management, and TDM strategies that help reduce drive-alone demand. And while the state of the commute is focused on work trips, we pair it with the regional travel survey that Lynn mentioned in the prior presentation, which captures all travel, both work and non-work, to give the TPB a complete understanding of regional mobility. Together, these data sets can guide our planning, investment decisions, and implementation of the board's priorities. So now that we've covered why the state of the commute is so important to the TPB's work, we'll turn to the core findings themselves. The next section looks at how workers are commuting in 2025, the modes they use, what's changed or been maintained since the pandemic, and how often they travel, how often telework continues to shape demand across the region. We'll start with telework, because its influence on travel demand continues to be substantial. Telework rose from about 1/3 of workers in 2019 to nearly 2/3 in 2022. And although it declined in 2025, it has stabilized at 48%. That's still dramatically higher than the pre-pandemic levels we observed, and it's reshaping the regional travel patterns. As a share of weekly commute trips, telework dropped sharply from the pandemic peak, when it accounted for nearly half of all commute days. But it remains at 15%, which is still well above the roughly 10% we saw in 2019. We also see the continued expansion of hybrid telework arrangements, which at 35% of all types of telework arrangements is now the most common type of schedule for teleworkers. Altogether, the current levels of telework in the region accounts for an estimated elimination of 3.3 million daily work trips, assuming that these trips would otherwise be taken on the transportation network. The takeaway is that telework continues to play an important role in reducing congestion, transit crowding, and peak period demand for roadway capacity. The next finding is a bit complicated, but reveals much about how commuters are evolving post-pandemic. Before the pandemic, workers who teleworked some of their workdays teleworked just over 1 day a week. In 2022, during the pandemic, that jumped to more than 3 days a week. By 2025, it eased back to about 2.3 days a week. So although employers have reduced telework expectations, we are still far from the 2019 norms. Frequent teleworkers, those working remotely 3 or more days a week, fell from 75% during the pandemic to 35% today. But that remains well above the 14% we saw in 2019. We're seeing telework settle into a steady share of weekly commute behavior, even as total travel demand rises and telework frequencies ease downward from their pandemic highs. These changes matter because more in-person workdays could increase railway demand, especially midweek. That reinforces the need for congestion management strategies, and it also highlights opportunities for commuter incentives that encourage even occasional non-drive alone trips. Another important trend is where telework is most common. Telework continues to be the highest among workers who live or work in the core. That is the district, Arlington, and Alexandria. In 2025, about 56% of core residents and nearly half of core workers telework at least part of the week. Telework is still substantial in the middle and outer rings of the region, but at lower levels. This tells us that the core, where job types are more telework eligible, remains the center of hybrid work activity. This has an important implication for transit. Because the core is also the most transit-rich part of the region, higher telework rates could limit commute-based transit ridership recovery, even as service improves. It reinforces the need to focus on reliability and convenience, especially midweek, to ensure that when hybrid workers do commute, transit is an easy choice. Federal workers have experienced the most dramatic shift in telework of any group in the region. In 2022, nearly 8 in 10 federal employees teleworked full-time or in hybrid arrangements. By 2025, that number dropped all the way down to 23%, driven largely by return to office policies. That decline is far steeper than what we see in other sectors. Nonprofits, private employers, and state and local agencies all still support telework at much higher levels. This change matters because federal workers make up a substantial portion of the regional workforce, particularly in the core, and their commute patterns have a major influence on both transit ridership and roadway demand. One practical implication is that this creates an opportunity. As more federal employees return to in-person commuting, federal commuter benefits, including transit subsidies, pre-tax transit programs, can play a significant role in shaping travel choice. These benefits are already available and many workers remain eligible for them, but not all federal employees fully utilize them. By strengthening coordination with federal agencies, Commuter Connections Network members can help ensure that returning commuters are aware of and enrolled in these programs. Encouraging use of these federally funded incentives can help shift more of these commuters towards shared mode travel, reducing drive-alone demand and supporting transit ridership recovery. Related to this, nearly 45% of workers who could telework reported that as of spring 2025, their employer had announced a return to office policy. For those under such policies, 60% are required to be in the office all work days. Another sizable share must be on site 3 or 4 days a week. We also asked about new behavior, the split site workday. These are days when someone commutes to a work site for part of the day and works remotely for the rest. Nearly half of all teleworkers do this at least once per week. Split site work shifts trips away from the morning peak and into the midday periods or periods just around the peak, which may help spread demand out, but causes new challenges for transit scheduling and roadway operations. Turning now to the physical commute modes. Drive-alone trips dropped sharply during the pandemic when telework was at its peak. In 2022, only 41% of weekly commute trips were drive-alone. In 2025, drive-alone commuting has essentially returned to pre-pandemic levels at 57% of the mode split, almost identical to the 58% we saw in 2019. This rebound reinforces the need for sustained investment in multimodal options. While telework offsets some trips, the demand for roadway capacity, especially on midweek days, continues to be strong. Transit is one of the most notable recovery stories in the 2025 State of the Commute. As you can see, transit mode share rose from 8% in 2022 back up to 22% in 2025, making it once again the region's second most common commute mode. This rebound lines up closely with improvements in service. Agencies restored many of the service reductions that were in place during the pandemic, and transit reliability improved significantly, especially on rail. As we'll discuss later in the presentation, transit rider satisfaction also experienced significant gains since the pandemic. What the state of the commute helps clarify is why this rebound occurred. When we examine commuters' motivations for choosing non-drive-alone modes, the benefits they value most, including avoiding stress, using travel time productively, and saving money, are benefits where transit performs especially well when the service is accessible and reliable. So now let's turn to carpooling and active transportation. Carpooling saw a noticeable drop during the pandemic, falling from 5% of the commuters in 2019 to 2% in 2022. And it has grown slightly to about 3% in 2025. The State of the Commute identifies a potential reason for this. The number one barrier to ride sharing is simply that workers don't know someone to carpool or vanpool with, followed by irregular work schedules, which remain common in this hybrid area we find ourselves in. Active transportation shows us a different pattern. Biking and walking held relatively steady across the past 3 surveys at around 3 to 4% of weekly commute trips, and these modes consistently have the highest satisfaction levels across the entire report. For commuter connections, this sends a clear message to strengthen our ride matching tools and outreach to directly address the barrier that keeps carpooling low, that is, not knowing a rideshare partner. Additionally, as hybrid workers commute fewer days a week, there's more flexibility for commuters to experiment with bike or walk trips, especially if supported by local investment in improved bike lanes, trails, and end-of-trip amenities. Building on what we just discussed in the previous slide, where we saw that carpooling remains limited and active commuting has held steady, it's clear that many commuters who want to use non-drive-alone modes still face barriers. This slide looks at these access points, the places where commuters transition between modes, which turn out to be essential in enabling non-drive-alone travel. The State of the Commute shows that for commuters using carpooling, vanpooling, or transit, walking is the most common way to reach the meeting point. But just as important, over 1/4, or 27%, drive alone to a central location, whether that's a park and ride lot or a carpool pickup location. We also see that 14% of non-drive alone commuters use transit to reach their meeting point, and a very small percentage bike or ride on a scooter. Once commuters arrive at their final drop-off location, walking overwhelmingly dominates at 95% of the final travel mode these commuters use to reach their workplace, which makes sense. You're getting off the bus stop or off the rail station. You're just walking about a 1/4 mile or less to get to your workplace. Taken together, these patterns highlight the importance of investing in multimodal transfer facilities, park and rides, safe pedestrian connections to stations, secure bike parking, and well-designed bus rail hubs. These facilities make it easier for commuters to choose transit, carpool, vanpool, or other active modes of transportation. And for hybrid workers commuting fewer days a week, improving these conditions and connections can encourage them to try a non-drive alone mode even once or twice a week. So some key takeaways as we wrap up this section. 2 trends stand out from the State of the Commute. First, telework remains a defining feature in the region's travel patterns. Even though telework frequency has dropped since 2022, it is still far above those 2019 levels. This continues to shape the way and how people travel, especially with midweek peaks and more variability in daily demand. Telework's persistence means that the region will continue to see peak day demand and commute variability, likely settling into a new normal of post-pandemic commute patterns. Second, transit has shown a strong and significant rebound. Mode share has risen sharply since 2022, driven by improvements in reliability and restored service. Commuters are responding to what they value most: reduced stress, productive travel time, and predictable service. As more workers commute midweek, these benefits become even more important for sustaining transit ridership. We also see continued stability in carpooling and active modes, though at modest levels. Combined with hybrid work patterns, these findings point to a targeted opportunity, continue strengthening transit reliability, improve access to stations, and reinforce programs that reduce drive-alone travel, even 1 or 2 days a week, can help. So now, in the second part of our overview and presentation, I'm happy to invite Lindsay Hickey to the podium to discuss the commute information attitudes and awareness. Lindsay, I'm having trouble this night.
Okay.
Maybe you can hold it down better than I can.
Do you want to sit? Oh, can I sit? Yeah, oh, but why not? Sit. My clicker, Dan.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? How's that? Better? Oh, there we go. Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll now walk through the section on commute information, attitudes, and awareness. This part of the state of the commute looks beyond how people travel and focuses on what they experience on those trips, how long their commutes take, how satisfied they are, what benefits they see in non-drive alone modes, and how income relates to mode choice. We'll also explore the values that commuters say matters most to them, which helps us understand why certain modes have recovered more quickly than others. This insight gives us a fuller picture of why commuting looks the way it does today and where the region may need to focus future investments. One of the most consistent findings in the 2025 State of the Commute is that commute length and travel time has not changed much, even with all the shifts in teleworking and workplace patterns. The average one-way commute remains about 17 miles, about the same as 2019, and average travel time holds steady around 40 minutes. But the SOC also highlights important differences by where people live and work. Residents and workers in the core, which is DC, Arlington, and Alexandria, have noticeably shorter commuter times. This reflects their closer proximity to major employment centers and the strong availability of transit, walking, and bike options. In contrast, commuters in the middle and outer rings tend to travel much farther, and that distance, combined with congestion, keeps commute times longer, even as hybrid schedules reduce total commute days. Transit riders still experience the longest travel times overall, averaging more than 50 minutes. These longer trips often reflect both distance from job centers and the structure of regional transit support. From a policy standpoint, the stability in travel times tells us a couple of things. First, despite telework growth, the region's job housing geography really hasn't shifted significantly. Second, there's continued need for congestion management and reliability improvements, especially in middle and outer ring corridors where commute distances are longest. While overall commute satisfaction in the region remains close to where it was before the pandemic, around 50%, the more important story in the 2025 State of the Commute is how different modes are driving that stability. The standout finding is the significant improvement in transit satisfaction, particularly with Metro Rail. Both rail and, to a lesser extent, bus riders report noticeably better experiences compared with 2022, following meaningful reliability gains and the restoration of service levels across the system. These improvements align closely with what commuters say they value most: predictability, reduced stress, and the ability to use their travel time productively. At the same time, satisfaction among drive-alone commuters has declined notably, more than any other mode since the pandemic. These shifts largely offset one another. Transit improving, driving worsening, which is why overall satisfaction appears flat. The takeaway is clear: sustaining transit reliability and addressing midweek congestion pressures can meaningfully improve the commuter experience across the region. One of the most informative parts of the SOC asks commuters what personal benefits they associate with using modes other than driving alone. In 2025, the leading benefit was avoiding stress. The second most common benefit is saving money, though this is declined slightly from 2019, and a consistently strong motivator, especially for transit commuters, is having productive time during the trip, such as reading, working, or relaxing. What's notable is how these benefits have shifted. Before the pandemic, cost savings and environmental benefits played a larger role. Today, commuters emphasize comfort, predictability, and stress reduction. Hybrid work schedules allow people to choose the mode that feels best on the days they travel, and many select the mode that minimizes stress. For policy considerations, this suggests two opportunities: Commuter Connections marketing and outreach should highlight these comfort and predictability benefits, not just as cost savings. Second, transit agencies that invest in transit operations, improving frequency, reducing travel time, and strengthening on-time performance is one of the most effective ways to encourage more people to choose transit. This slide highlights how transit access strengthens the region's economy. The 2025 State of the Commute shows that transit use remains strong across all income levels, and the WMATA Benefits of Transit study finds that about 40% of all regional jobs, including many high-wage jobs, are within a half mile of a metro station. That means transit opportunities directly connect workers to our most valuable job centers and supports overall economic competitiveness. But there's another side of the story that emerges from national research. Studies show that in many large metros, including Washington, higher income residents tend to live closer to transit-rich areas. This can raise housing costs near stations and over time make it more difficult for transit-dependent riders to live near the service they rely on. While the SOC doesn't address this directly, it is an important policy context for our region. The takeaway is that investing in reliable, frequent transit remains essential for economic growth, but we also need equitable land use and affordability strategies near stations to ensure that transit access remains available to everyone who depends on it. Before we move to the key takeaways, excuse me, it's important to highlight what the State of the Commute tells us about commuter awareness. The 2025 SOC continues to track awareness of commuter connections, guaranteed ride home, and employer-provided commute benefits. And, much like earlier cycles, awareness remains relatively low. That means many commuters simply don't know what options are available to them. At the same time, telework is lower than in 2022, and more people are commuting again. They're reconsidering how they travel, and that gives us a unique opportunity to re-expose commuters to smart, lower stress options. This is exactly where Commuter Connections plays a critical role, helping returning commuters understand their choices from transit to ride sharing to guaranteed ride home, and supporting a smoother, more sustainable commute across the region. Now to highlight the 3 key takeaways from the report. First, commute times have climbed back towards pre-pandemic levels, even though commute distances remain similar to 2019, and commuters consistently prefer the least stressful and fastest option. Transit satisfaction has improved significantly since 2022 due to better reliability and restored service, and reliability is directly tied to commuter motivations to choose alternative modes. And finally, low awareness limits mode shift potential and reduces adoption of non-drive alone options. And now I'll go back to Dan to finish up today's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Sorry, guys. All right, conclusions and applications. I'll take us through the final section of today's presentations. We've covered commute patterns, commuter attitudes, transit performance, and awareness trends. Now we'll look at the state of the commute findings and how they connect directly to TPB's priority framework and how these insights can guide our regional programs, investments, and planning activities. So looking across the report, we can see how findings align with several of the TPB's core principles. For accessibility, the state of the commute shows us that commute distances have remained remarkably stable since 2019. This tells us that most workers haven't shifted outward in large numbers and that our existing multimodal networks remain well aligned to where people live and work today. For sustainability, telework levels remain well above 2019, which continues to reduce an estimated 3 million trips a day, likely also reducing emissions associated with those trips. At the same time, transit reliability has also improved, strengthening the region's ability to shift trips away from drive-alone commutes. For prosperity, more reliable transit directly supports employers' needs for consistent and predictable commuter access to major job centers. That reliability is essential for maintaining regional economic competitiveness and workforce stability. And for livability there at the bottom, commute times are edging back towards pre-pandemic levels, signaling the need for efficient and dependable multimodal options. To support your work as board members and those that work in your jurisdictions, we've produced several tools built from the State of the Commute. The technical report is available online at that URL, nwcog.org/commute data for your review. It has a full set of findings, charts, and tables. Our interactive dashboard, which I'll get into a little bit after this slide, allows you and your staff to explore trends across different geographies, modes, and commuter characteristics. We're also preparing custom jurisdictional data packages, which deliver deeper crosstab data for local planners. And as always, we'll provide summary materials and visuals that you can use in your own presentations and planning documents. These tools are designed to help the State of the Commute integrate into the decision makers' local plans, TDM programs, grant applications, and broader decision-making efforts. So if we could transition very quickly, just a 2-minute demo of what is available on the website for you all. This is the dashboard, for example. We've got, if you scroll down just a little bit, Laura, by the way, I want to thank, I believe Lori Zeller's back there from our consultant team who helped put this together. We've got 5 cards here that you can click on and explore. It's available to the public. So whether it's a member of the public trying to understand commute trends in our region or a team member or a consultant looking to put together a report to inform decision makers, this is all right here. We'll go ahead and click on the commute patterns tab there and just do a quick overview of what is available on this dashboard. So a little bit about the dashboard, talks about our work of commuter connections and TPB. Let's clear all those filters on the left-hand panel there, Lori, if you don't mind, and get a little snapshot of commute patterns for the entire region. Now that all the filters are out, we can see drive alone being the top mode like we talked about during the presentation. Let's just toggle on the Alexandria City filter there and see how things change. I think it's okay. So let's scroll down a little bit and look at their breakdown here under weekly commute trips by mode. You can hover over that and see the specific percentages as well to know, what are residents of Alexandria doing? And we have all the different jurisdictions on the left where we can filter by. Let's go ahead and add in another one just to see what happens. Let's add in Washington, D.C. and see how that mode share then changes. You have a more of a transit-rich area. Metro Rail grows, for example, and the total amount of commute mode split available in this particular data set. You can also filter, we won't get into this, but filter by subregions such as the inner suburbs, the inner core, and the outer area, income and demographics as well. So there are lots of these available for everyone to use and hopefully reference in any reports and such that you are putting together. And like I said, the local jurisdictional data, which is the hard data set of all the crosstabs, the raw data, will be sent to our colleagues at the local jurisdictions that you will be able to reference and use as well. I think that is it for our presentation. Conti, do you want to add anything before we turn it over? We're good? All right. Thank you,
All
Jake.
right, thanks, Dan and Lindsay. Does anybody in the room have any questions on this? A lot of data here, a lot to digest. No questions in the room. I'm shocked. So I have one probably a hard question. The data that the slide that you showed on awareness shows a continual decline in awareness of these programs, which seems very counterproductive to the whole concept. Is there a plan for doing some promotion or something to get the awareness back up to better levels?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we look at this as an opportunity. We think that as people are coming back to the workplace more often, there's more room for us as commuter connections to get out in front of them and let them know, hey, these are your options that are available. You don't have to sit in traffic and drive alone. We have a regional marketing campaign that we're putting together that we've got some great inferences here too that help us understand what messaging resonates with commuters that we didn't know at what level of detail before the survey was available. So for example, we've heard us say it a few times, reducing stress, convenience, like these seem to be something that commuters resonate with now, maybe more so than before the pandemic when saving money was the top indicator. So we'll use that to inform our decisions. We're working, and you guys will get a briefing from me next month actually on the CCWP on altering our work program as well to get in front of employers more. So we think that by getting in front of employers more, being able to promote commuter benefits to them and then pass it on to the commuters themselves at the work site will be another impactful measure in increasing awareness and helping them understand what options have in the region.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, if there are no questions in the room, are there any hands up in the?
Dave Snyder.
Dave Snyder, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank COG staff for an excellent report. I currently chair the Metropolitan Washington Air Quality Committee, and this is a comment that I want to make. While the plan is focused on transportation and the report, the reality is that as transportation is the leading creator of air pollution in our region and greenhouse gases, it's critically important that even though the region has attained compliance with major air quality standards, that the challenge is to maintain that compliance for the next 10 years and not backsliding. And transit, carpool, van pools, walk bike, and telework will be critical to offset the increase in travel and related emissions from the growth in the region during this same 10-year period. So the point that I want to make is there's been some very good news about improvements in air quality in our region. However, that is a constant, will require a constant effort to maintain that. And this report and its recommendations can be a fundamental part. But I don't want to de-emphasize in any way the challenge that this region has to maintain the attainment that we have with the air quality standards that we've attained through so much work and effort on behalf of the public and all of our governments in this body, among others. So that's the point that I wanted to make today, that there's a critical connection here to air quality. And while we've made progress, if we backslide, we'll lose that attainment and be faced with more difficult compliance challenges in the future. Thank you.
All right. I'm doing my part. I have an EV.
Thank you. I just wanted to add a couple things. This is the first set of data analysis that staff has done. We do this once every 3 years, and we look at what is the big picture story at the regional level. That's what we've done. But we do have plan to do a deeper dive with this data. There are a lot of crosstabs that are possible. We do have a plan to do that and bring additional findings from this to the board. During your remarks, Mr. Chair, you noted that we adopted a plan last month, but the board also recognized that the performance that the plan delivers or is anticipated to deliver falls short of our aspirations. So the next year or so, staff's efforts will be on the deep dive, looking at data and say, if we want our long-range plan to provide better performance outcomes, here are the areas in which we can do something better. So from the state of the commute survey results, for example, earlier during the press event, there were a couple of questions asked about what does this mean or what does the federal return to office posture means. For example, in 2019, let's for a moment forget the COVID period because it is such an anomaly in more than 100 years. If we think that 2019 was the state of the world and the state of the region, 48% of the federal employees were teleworking in 2019, right? Local, state and local government, 14%. Today, state and local government, more than 40% telework. Only 23% of the federal. How does this matter? In a couple different ways. If you look at the transit subsidy, the largest employer provided transit subsidy is at the federal level. The largest usage of this transit subsidy is at the federal level. I ride VRE every day. And on VRE, I can tell you, after January 22nd, the train cars began to load up every single day. And now, if you don't get there ahead of time, you may have to be driving around to find a parking spot. That is just on the federal side. But on the state and local side, there seems to be a setting in of 2 days telework. So that shift is going to change when there will be demand on our roadways on the transit system. It is very hard for transit systems to design and operate for 3 days a week. They have to be there all days a week. Second thing, as an example, the split day, which is what we are observing, and many of us do this, and we have experienced this, we have seen this, but data is now indicating more and more people are coming into the office just for a few hours. That means their time when they travel is shifting. There is data in the report, if you look at it, the time in which majority of the employees report to work has now shifted. For many years, transportation planners and engineers, we thought in our region 6:30 to 7:30 was the peak time. That is not the peak time. Now, you see more people coming in after 8 o'clock. And the second highest peak is after 9 o'clock, but it is within half hour. So for transit system planners and for roadway system planners, our people are looking at pre-time traffic signals. Things matter. When are people coming? When is the peak happening? And so therefore, for transit planners, particularly local buses, providing adequate frequent services in off-peak becomes important. And that's the last point I'll point out. In the report, I forget the page number, there's a finding. We asked people who were not riding transit in 2025, what keeps you from riding transit? We asked that question and we sorted the data by those who were using transit before but are not using transit now, and those who have never used transit. Both of them said, oh, it is too slow. It does not get me the service during my time. So what changed after 2019 is their work timings changed. So this transit service design will now have to take that into effect. So these are the kinds of information that is there, and we plan to pull that out and share with you, so that for the next set of earlier we talked about DMV moves, and WMATA has just completed a better bus network design, and they have implemented those operations as well. So I think that's what we hope to get out of this data set and bring it back to the board.
All right, great. Are there any more hands raised? Okay. All right. Thank you for the presentation, for the great data. Look forward to diving in some more. All right, we're up to adjournment. We're a little bit early.
Neil,
Yes?
can I interrupt for a second? And does everyone have 1 minute to see the coolest video ever?
All right.
It's just 1 minute.
Go ahead. We've got time.
Thank you. It's
Great.
I'd like to note that that picture from the Community Leadership Institute included a member from Gaithersburg who was on that committee before my time on the TPB. So you need to get an update on that one. He's moved out of Gaithersburg about 5 years ago. Anyway, that'll conclude the meeting. Please note the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. It will be an all virtual meeting, which means you're responsible for your own lunch. Therefore, I adjourn this meeting and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.